When I come around, got the whole thing wobbin'.
Now we move on to our next topic, the top 10 linebackers entering 2018. These are linebackers that don't necessarily rush the passer. They're both middle and outside linebackers. Outside linebackers in a 4-3, middle linebackers in both schemes. And this list, there's a lot of talented guys as always. Sometimes it's harder than not. But for me, I'll run down my bottom 5 guys. Starting at 10, I have Reuben Foster, a guy we just recently talked about entering his young rookie season, was a big impact for the 49ers there. And I believe he's going to end up maybe touching the top 5 list more sooner than not. You know, a great Alabama linebacker under the Nick Saban era. He's been able to produce linebackers at a high level. Reuben Foster, C.J. Mosley, Dante Hightower, and people forget Rolando McClain, but when he signed with the Raiders was one of these highly touted linebackers, and obviously he just couldn't get himself together off the field, but he was once a very talented linebacker there. Number 9, I have Anthony Barr from Minnesota, just a very freakishly athletic guy who can cover tight ends very well, guy who's very big at 6'5", can run with the best of them. Can do all aspects of what a linebacker can do there in Minnesota. Levante David, he's number 8 for me. These are the new age linebackers, these guys on this list, because back in the day, these guys would probably be playing safety. They would be too fast to be playing linebacker back in the day, but strong enough to be playing safety. At strong safety. But these guys nowadays are guys who can cover the middle of the field, who can cover really well, sideline to sideline speed, great tacklers. You know, may not physically be built like an old school linebacker where they're like 6'3" and can overpower offensive linemen, but just great sideline to sideline speed. One of the great leaders for that Tampa Bay defense. His teammate, to me, I believe it's a little bit better based statistically and probably going to be one of the up-and-coming linebackers, Quan Alexander, as well too. He's a little bit more not versatile, but a little bit more athletic, better pass defender, has a lot of interceptions from the middle linebacker spot. And number 6, Eric Kendricks. We already touched on his brother. Eric Kendricks has been a stud since being drafted by Minnesota, has outperformed his brother easily and outperformed his running teammate in Anthony Barr. Also, like I said, with a new age linebacker, he's able to cover the middle of the field. He may be undersized, as people say, at 6 foot, but he's the perfect height to cover relatively tight ends, the middle of the field, and a great wrap-up tackler. That's my bottom 6. What about you? What is your bottom 6?
All right, so for number 10, we're going to start off, for me, with Eric Kendricks. You know, he's really good, solid linebacker, played for the Minnesota Vikings. Obviously, they were the number 1 defense this year, so I'm pretty sure he had a lot to do with that. Solid tackler, good in pass defense. You know, they might have got blown out in that playoff game, 38-7 by the Eagles, but he was a solid player all year long, so he cracks my top 10 list, number 10. Number 9, we got the rookie Reuben Foster, who we already spoke about earlier. Great linebacker, just kind of plays on a terrible team, but now that they got Jimmy Garoppolo in the mix, maybe he'll get some more recognition for being a stud on that defense. A little standout player. Number 8, this might be a shock to you, but I got Sean Lee for the Dallas Cowboys. I know he gets hurt every other game, it feels like, but when he's in there, the Cowboys defense is a lot
more potent, a lot more great leadership on the defense, no doubt about it.
Yeah, a lot more efficient. They're just a better overall group whenever Sean Lee's in there. So I gave him respect and put him in there when he's healthy. Number 7, another guy we got from the Cincinnati Bengals, Vontaze Burfict. Only because of this guy's just pure, just ferociousness that he brings to the field. Yeah, he's just a scary dude, Like, a lot of people don't want to run into this guy. This guy's, he's been listed as a dirty player, which, rightfully so. He is pretty dirty. But, the only reason I'm putting him in this top 10 is just because of, he puts fear in people like that and people coming across the field. So I had to put him in there.
My thing is, touch on real quick about he's one of those players where you love to have him on your team, but hate to go against him.
Yeah.
Because granted, he is a dirty player, but at the same time, he's willing to do whatever it takes to win a game.
Mm-hmm.
And you may need to have one of those players for every goody two shoes you have on your team. You need to have a Vontaze Burfict. You know,
have a bad guy, bad boy.
You know, for every bad boy, you have to have a good guy. You know, and you can't just have a team filled with bad dudes, and you can't have a team filled with just goody two shoes. You need to equal it out. And Vontaze Burfict, I mean,
he's a punisher.
Yeah, he's a guy that he does put fear of running in the middle of the field. And granted, his bark is louder than his bite. And he did get kind of punked by Juju Smith.
He did.
Recently.
He got blindsided. That was a nice hit.
Yeah, but go ahead. What's your number 6 one?
And my number 6 is Anthony Barr, another linebacker from Minnesota Vikings. You know, like I said earlier, he was instrumental in the Vikings being the number 1 defense this year. And I see him continuing his success next year on that defensive side.
Right. So our top 5, my number 5 guy is C.J. Mosley. Since the absence of Ray Lewis, granted Ray Lewis is a Hall of Famer, but production still hasn't dropped much. C.J. Mosley is also part of that new age linebacker group, a great coverage linebacker, a great middle linebacker in general, can do all aspects of what you ask for your middle linebacker to do. What a great player and a great stud they have there in Baltimore. Number 4, Telvin Smith for Jacksonville. A guy that's going to be stepping up more for Jacksonville now that Paul Plasnowski is now out for them, and he's going to be definitely the leader there. He was one of the defensive leaders on that Florida State team that won a national championship over there, and so being a leader is something that he doesn't go away from. Also, great sideline-to-sideline speed for him as well, too. He makes a lot of turnovers. It was also instrumental for that defense, too, for being a very heavily turnover team out there as well. Bobby Wagner is my number 3 linebacker. Now, I do believe that between 3 and 4, this is where you get into the relatively great linebackers in here. And Bobby Wagner has always been a performer out there in that Seahawks defense. He's a great, sideline to sideline speed is something that I'm always going to say about these linebackers because that's what they possess. They're able to run with the best of them. They're able to cover tight ends, and also not only that, be great run defenders and be great impact on both the passing game and in the running game. And the passing game is becoming more and more prevalent. And if you have a linebacker that can play all 3 downs, that's something Bobby Wagner has been able to do since day one. Number 2 is a guy a lot of people probably going to think controversial, but for me, Deion Jones is the second best linebacker. And it's based on the fact that not only is he able to cover well, just as good as cornerbacks can against tight ends, and also great in coverage. Very instinctual guy, great tackler. He's a bit of a stat stuffer as well, but I think he's a lot more instrumental, and I expect him to have a bigger season entering into the 2018 season. And also like him based on his age. He's much younger than Bobby Wagner. Eventually, I think Bobby Wagner's age is going to catch up to him in Seattle. And now that defense is kind of diminishing there in Seattle, where they're losing Richard Sherman, Earl Thomas has came out and said he wants to be traded. Cam Chancellor's getting his neck looked at recently to see if his future is playing there. And and so Bobby Wagner may have to be asking to do a lot more on his plate. So that's why I have Deion Jones as high as number 2. And number 1, no doubt about it, Luke Kuechly. Luke Kuechly is the linebacker who defies the new age idea of having a smaller safety-ish linebacker, a thinner frame, because he's 245 pounds, runs with the best of them, and super big, super athletic for his size, great tackler, and undeniable leader. Luke Kuechly has been a stud since Boston College, his days there. The moment he got drafted, he instantly improved that Carolina Panthers defense. They may be losing Thomas Davis due through suspension of PEDs, but that would not affect the team as much because Luke Kuechly is a bona fide stud. And I think he's undoubtedly the best linebacker there is.
Definitely.
and give me your top 5.
So my top 5. Number 5, I got Deion Jones coming in. Atlanta Falcon. He's a really good he's a really good linebacker. He's really young. He's got a bright future ahead of him. I remember watching this past season him literally seal the game against the New Orleans Saints with a game-winning interception. Like, this guy's a stud, no doubt about it. And I plan on seeing him in the top 3 linebackers in the near future. Definitely got a bright future ahead of him. Very fast, very strong, quick, very instinctive.
Instinctive linebacker. Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, it's like I said, because now that the passing game has become more prevalent than ever, you need a guy who can stay on the field all 3 downs, and that's what he can provide. Who's your number 4 guy?
Number 4, I got C.J. Mosley coming in, piggybacking off what you said. This guy showed up right after Ray Lewis, arguably the greatest linebacker to ever live, came in, and he hasn't missed a beat. C.J. Mosley has been instrumental in the Ravens keeping that defensive intensity that they're so well known for over the years. So C.J. Mosley, I got him number 4, showing him respect. Number 3, I had to put Ryan Shazier on there. I know he had the horrific injury that just happened last season, and his future is looking very doubtful. But from the time when he did play, this guy was really, really good. Like, I think people don't realize how good this guy was of an interior linebacker for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So I just had to show respect and put him on this list, and hopefully he has a future.
Here's a funny thing that most people don't know about him. He was actually listed as the 3rd string tight end at Ohio State because that's how athletically gifted he was as a linebacker out there. He's super quick. That's no doubt about that. And he just looks like a Pittsburgh Steeler. And that's so funny about Pittsburgh Steelers. They tend to draft guys that fit what a Pittsburgh Steeler is about.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. So I got him number 3. Number 2, I got Bobby Wagner. Even though he's getting on up there in age or whatever, but still a solid linebacker, obviously, for that
Legion of Boom.
Dismantled Legion of Boom.
Yeah.
The Seahawks aren't what they used to be, but he's still the centerpiece to that defense. So he's always going to be a top player until his body starts to give out on him. And number 1, Luke Kuechly. Enough said. You don't even really have to go into detail on Luke Kuechly. He's the best there is.
And the thing is about it is, with linebackers, it's these guys we name may not be top 10 even in tackles. Tackles is a statistic that really does not matter. Linebackers is something where, like, you actually have to watch them play.
Yep.
Because, like, believe it or not, guys, I don't think anybody on our list actually is top 5 in tackles in the NFL. But there are guys on this list that are in, like, I know Quan Alexander, Deion Jones, and Telvin Smith are high on the list in turnovers. And that's a statistic that you do have to worry about with linebackers. Because linebackers is sort of like when judging, including into the Hall of Fame, it's like you don't look at statistics. You just kind of have to watch them. You have to see, because they're the quarterback of the defense. And so that's where Luke Kuechly may not have a statistical, like, oh, he has 2,000. I mean, he has a 200 tackles in a season, or because one, they're least likely to get any sacks unless came in on a blitz, and that's by design. Not really going to get for interceptions, though. Linebacker interceptions have gone up due to the new age of passing and covering tight ends and running backs. But yeah, this top 10 linebacker list is our top 10. Rounding out my top 10, Luke Kuechly, number 1, Deion Jones, 2, Bobby Wagner, 3, Telvin Smith, 4, C.J. Mosley, 5, Anthony Barr, 6, Quan Alexander, 7, Levante David, 8. I had Eric Kendrick 6, my bad. Anthony Barr at 9 and Reuben Foster at 10. Your list goes with
number 1, we had Luke Kuechly, 2, Bobby Wagner, 3, Ryan Shazier, 4, C.J. Mosley, 5, Deion Jones. I had Anthony Barr at 6, Vontaze Burfict at 7, 8, Sean Lee, 9, Reuben Foster, and 10, Eric Kendricks.
Right. And that rounds up our top 10 list. Comment if you agree and share with us your top 10 linebacker list. We'll be happy to see your top 10 linebacker list. And remember to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel for more top 10 lists each and every week. When me and Darius get together, we do a top 10 list of a different positional player, different positions on the field. And after we do our top 10 list, we'll construct our own top 100 player overall list.